liberals. We're back on the Libertarian Combine to do a reaction to both libertarian, communist, and some anarcho-capitalist memes. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Here we go. More like Chad Massey. Breaking. Representative Thomas Massey is proposing an amendment to the Constitution that will add the right to grow food and purchase food from the sources he wants. Right now we've descended into this corporatocracy where 4 companies control all the meat, a few cooperatives control all the milk, Representative Massey told Blaze Glenn Beck. Yeah, again, the corporatocracy statement is fully true, because when only a few companies control, like, a certain thing, that's only a few steps away from a monopoly. So really, the true free market solution is to add a constitutional right like that. Alright, moving on. Oh, by the way, just so you know, I'm not going to be reacting to any videos, because videos, the recording system that I'm using doesn't pick up system audio. Alright. The government says you cannot protect yourself from the cold. The city of Philadelphia has officially banned wearing of ski masks in public. It's a new law facing backlash from teenagers who say wearing ski masks is a stylistic choice and a necessity in cold weather. In today's Stay Tuned, in this week's Stay Tuned, we'll hear from those Philly teens who say their rights are being violated, and hear from the Philadelphia City Council member who crafted the legislation intended to reduce violent crime. Yeah, I noticed this. A lot of politicians these days think that, like, because of the fact that ski masks are, like, synonymous with violent crimes, that doesn't mean that banning ski masks will stop violent crimes. Like, oh, criminals wear ski masks. If we ban ski masks, there won't be any more criminals. Problem solved. That's not how that works. Alright, moving on. Video. Civilized society. People who don't pay taxes. The state. Taxation is the price we pay to live in a civilized society. You see, this is an issue because, even though the issue is that, yes, it is true that not a single civilized society has been free from taxes. That's only happened because we're conditioned to think that taxes are necessary, when in actuality, if we just learn that taxation is theft and that it's completely unnecessary, we could potentially be living in a post-taxation society. Alright? Some rules apply. I hate it when Russia interferes with our elections. You don't say. Alright, the echo chamber in most subs. Yeah, I've noticed this. Reddit is usually just a massive echo chamber. It's not as much of an echo chamber as 4chan, for example, but it's still pretty bad. Like, 4chan, like, for example, 4chan is, like, divided into, like, 8 different echo chambers. Like, you have poll for the far right wingers, and you have whatever the name is for the far leftists, who just regurgitate their own opinions to other people who just, all they do is agree. All they do is just agree with each other. They're surrounded by yes men. Alright. What about the police who will arrest you on fake charges? I'm not pronouncing that. A TPD officer can be seen on body camera pouring out a sealed bottle of liquor and tossing it in Calvin Riley's passenger seat before arresting him for a DUI. Riley's jury trial begins on April 5th. Yeah, I know. An issue that I have with the idea of state-owned police is that if police are state-owned, they're funded indirectly by taxation and tax dollars. So therefore, if they do a bad job, they're not going to lose out on money because they can't lose out on tax dollars. So if the police were privately funded and operated more like private security, they would lose money if they do something like this. They would lose money from customers and stuff like that. So if anything, police should be privatized. And I recognize this one. I put this on my community posts. Why do some people think it can be done? One cannot increase immigration without building more houses. I cannot stress this enough. The housing market is the way it is now because there's not enough houses, not because the free market is doing a bad job. Alright, Lou Rocklow on democracy. Democracy has turned out to be not majority rule, but rule by well-organized and well-connected minority groups who steal from the majority. Lou Rockwell, founder of Mises Institute. Yeah, this statement is just true because democracy used to be tyranny of the majority. Now it's just straight up tyranny without anything else to it. Also, Lou Rockwell, that is a legendary name. Like, especially that last name, Rockwell. Amazing. Speak out against socialism. Speak out against all forms of socialism before it's too late. It didn't start with gas chambers. It started with one party controlling the media, one party controlling the message, one party deciding what is truth, one party censoring speech and controlling the opposition, one party dividing citizens into us versus them, and calling on supporters to harass them. It started when good people turned a blind eye and let it happen. I love this imagery right here because it perfectly demonstrates, and with this speaking against all forms of socialism, because there's a reason why Nazi is short for National Socialists, because they were socialists. Alright, next one. My dog is really inconsistent with his economic stance. My dog when he's eating, my dog when I'm eating. What can you say about dogs? They do their own thing. If anything, dogs are just the definition of egoists. I wouldn't be surprised that if this dog knew how to read, it would have read a lot of Stirner. Alright. It's simply economics. What if the state meets the market demand for rape, theft, and murder? I'm pretty sure it should be obvious. Alright. Love or posts. Liberal democracy. The F stands for freedom. Because there is no freedom. Alright. The real story of Robin Hood. They fooled you about the real story of Robin Hood. Robin Hood does not steal from the rich. He steals from the king and his cronies. When he gives back to the poor, he is returning their property to them. It is not an act of charity or redistribution of wealth, or rebellion against the state. Now think about why they constantly teach the story wrong. Yes, I noticed that a lot of people think that Robin Hood is an example of like a true socialist in practice. However, Robin Hood is more closer to a libertarian. And I think that they intentionally teach the story incorrectly because people are trying to push their degenerates, cultural Marxist, like pseudo-communist agenda to sometimes the younger generation. So, yeah. LJS, or no, that's IJS, whatever. It's kind of weird people don't want this. Yeah, the fact that people are afraid of guns confuses me. Because guns are just another tool. No matter how you look at it, guns are just a tool. They can be used for good and they can be used for bad. However, sure, the issue is that the news only ever reports on people doing bad things with guns because they're heavily biased. In fact, I need to go on a tangent. No, like, gun-free zones are the worst idea imaginable. Because gun-free zones are just a mass shooting waiting to happen. If you ban guns in a specific area, guess what's gonna happen? Criminals don't follow the law, so they're just gonna go in there and wreak havoc. So there's no reason for gun-free zones to exist. Alright. Oh, we've already seen this one. It's legal theft as well. Yeah, because just because it's legal doesn't mean that it should be legal. That's called a moralistic fallacy. Alright. Cult religion based on exploiting the miserable. How are you guys not depressed? Being a leftist is extremely depressing for me. How do you guys try to remain positive? Never mind, I just got 140 comments from people who saying that they're depressed. Well, communism is a cult religion based on exploiting the miserable. The more miserable people are for any reason, the more effectively the cult can recruit. Yeah, I've noticed this. Leftism. The issue with leftism is that it's based around Marxism, cultural Marxism, which in and of itself, cultural Marxism created the outgrowth of wokeness. And the thing that combines the two together is that people who follow them believe in extreme forms of basically a victim mentality is what the word is, because they think, oh, I'm so oppressed. Instead of just sitting there doing nothing, why don't you do something about it? Or in fact, do something about it that'll actually work, unlike, for example, Shaz, the capital hill autonomous zone that failed miserably. Alright, the next one. Makes enough sense, actually. So how come there aren't any circuses around now? Because all the clown went into politics. I noticed this because a lot of politicians these days have no idea what they're talking about. I think that's part of the reason why there's not that many libertarian. Like, the issue is that, for example, presidential candidates, you only ever get Democrat or Republican. Now the issue with that is that both sides are really bad. Republicans support property rights, sure, but not personal rights. They think, oh, same-sex marriage should be banned because it goes against whatever, traditional values, religion, whatever they think. Meanwhile, Democrats don't support property rights or personal rights in some cases, where they think that, oh, you shouldn't be allowed to own this house because landlord's bad or whatever their logic is. Or in a majority of the time they do sometimes support personal rights, but other times they just straight up hate straight white men, which at the end of the day just creates like a toxic victim mentality. So, and you don't really see that many libertarians because libertarians support both property rights and personal rights, but it's just that the scales can be turned up and on a little, like turned on and off again. Like for example, for me, I think property rights like are just as important as personal rights. However, I still consider myself a paleo-libertarian, as in a mix, like the supporting like freedom, like of an average libertarian, but with the the traditional cultural values of a Republican. But that's besides the point. All right, another one. All right. Certain futuristic sci-fi franchise fan bases have had a tough time with this one. When you explain to Western tankies that killing people just because they're wealthy is still murder, homeless have never seen such bull before. Yeah, I never understood this logic of, oh, eat the rich. That won't work. By killing rich people, or in a more moderate sense, taxing them a whole lot more, it's not going to do anything. First of all, let's talk about the more radical approach of eat the rich. You're just losing money as a society. Just because of the fact that you killed all the people with the money, the society overall has less money. So, overall, there is no reason to do that. And now in a more moderate stance, I already put this on my community post. The tax the rich as much as the poor. Here's a better idea. Tax the poor as much as you tax the rich. It's a much better solution, and it'll lower taxation overall because I'm pretty sure anyone with a brain knows that rich people get taxed less than poor people. But the issue that divides people is how we should fix that. Because at the end of the day, like the left always says things like, we should tax the rich more so they can pay their fair share. And the right usually says things like, no, it should be kept the same. In fact, we should tax the rich way less. Meanwhile, a proper paleo-libertarian or just a regular libertarian says, just tax the poor as much as the rich. In fact, I once saw a meme on this subreddit I'm looking on. I don't know if it'll be on this video because I'm just scrolling. This is completely unscripted. But I saw a video, like a script. I saw a meme that said something like it was the Drake meme of tax churches as much as any other institution. Not tax every other institution like churches. Yes, because that's what should be done. All right, moving on. Average Twitter paleo-libertarian. Marry me right now. I'm depressing GF. Thanks for having low standards. Okay, moving on. Alright, we are not the same. You're a libertarian. I'm a libertarian. We are not the same. I've noticed that this is a common logical fallacy that a lot of libertarians fall for. I think it's called the no truer Salesman fallacy, which is basically, a true libertarian wouldn't do this. Which, while it is true that's, it is true that ideas like libertarian socialism or things like, leading heart libertarianism are physically impossible, to obtain true liberty. The issue is that we end up dividing ourselves into left versus right, so that makes us no better than the Democrats or Republicans. The issue is that it shouldn't be left versus right, it should be libertarian versus authoritarian. That way, if it's left versus right, at the end of the day, people are just gonna start killing each other, because that's how left versus right always goes. However, if we unite into libertarian versus authoritarian, we can minimize damage to our overall society if we just make sure the authoritarians stay out of power and let the libertarians form their own separate societies, using methods such as physical removal, as described by Hans von Hoppe, in order to maintain peace and a homogenous group. But yeah. Okay. Without government, who would shoot a kidnapped teenage girl? California police fatally shot abducted teen as she was following instructions to move toward a deputy. I can't say I'm surprised, because this is the California police. I can't say I'm surprised. Even as someone who lives in California, I'm genuinely not surprised. I would go more into detail, but I already did that with the one of the DUI charge from before. Alright, I think this one should be the last one. Alright, it's kind of funny when you think about it. You read about brown people fleeing to America for opportunity. What you don't read about is all those white people eyeballing the cheap housing in brown countries. The grass is always greener on the other side, and it's interesting how, okay, this is not anything relating to what I'm saying, but it's interesting to me that the Pepe frog meme started out as just completely neutral and then became an icon of the alt-rights. I don't even hate the alt-right, I'm just surprised. If you want my opinion on the alt-right, I would say that they're alt-rights. Pun totally intended. But on more serious notes, the alt-rights, I respect their how much they like tradition and stuff like that, because tradition, there's no reason to change something if it's working. However, they need to understand that liberty is just as important to culture as culture is to liberty. And I've seen some alt-right members say things like, oh, socialism is fine as long as they put white people in charge. Which, by the way, they have no reason to support socialism, because socialism will end up putting minorities in charge, which brings in multiculturalism, which will inevitably destroy America. Alright, moving on to the communist section of this meme review. Alright, here we go. Alright, why is this always happening? History memes when somebody says capitalism bad using straw men. Tanky detected, government actions are different to economic systems. Both are horrible. History memes when someone says communism bad using straw men. Facts, so true. I've noticed that the issue is that this is called the fallacy. It's a logical fallacy that just because someone else is using a fallacy, that means that your argument is automatically true. So the issue with that is that this argument is using a lot of fallacies. Well, it's only using one fallacy, the fallacy. That was difficult to say. But yeah. Hopping on the trend of Western leftist bingo. Western leftist bingo identifies as social democrats. Harm reduction blames the left for Trump. Pro-NATO dehumanizes Western people. When the West does it, it's humanitarian intervention. Theory comes from online debate bros. White middle class. Communism killed Billy. No. Communism. Why do they spell like that? Anti-racist unless it's directed at the Chinese. White savior complex. Mixed socialism with capitalism. Free space. Defending democracy at home and abroad. Treats politics like a ball game. Believes in social credit score myth. Blames Russian influence for everything. I'm a socialist, not a communist. Cis male, ableist jokes. More female drone pilots. I'm white, but Iron Front. Ageist against the elderly. All LGBTQ people are urban upper middle class. I have no idea why because this meme is literally just proving my point, because these leftists are literally, so-called leftists, aren't really understanding. They're supporting. It's hard. I think the person who's writing this is explicitly making fun of post-leftists. My issue with post-leftists is that The whole ideology centers on not believing in an ideology. Alright. I am not reading this one, because I've already gone through that. Actually, maybe I will. Alright. Some common denominators I've seen in annoying people. The Yankee radical left bingo calls themselves an anarchist or democratic socialist. Dumps on Christians but insists other religions are progressive and atheists are evil. Thinks the solution to child abuse is the safety of the family. Read little to no theory or history, calls it unnecessary and snobbish. Thinks pre-capitalist society was a utopia. Defends small businesses, copyright and IP. Rejects material and class analysis. Operates on mostly by vibes. Incredibly romanticized and unrealistic idea of what a revolution looks like and involves. Uses the word nuance when talking about foreign intervention. Assumes you're European if you criticize them. Says the Soviets were strong allies to the Nazis. Main, if not only talking points, are free healthcare and college, free space. Still thinks that the only reason to oppose Israel is anti-Semitism. Calls you a conspiracy theorist if you tell them something the US did and fully admitted. Okay. Sees fascists outside the West. They just wanted to defend their culture. Loves piracy and made fun of NFTs but says AI is theft. Forgets minorities and equality. Movements and who took this image? It's like 480p once you fully get into it. Refuses to acknowledge that they benefit from imperialism. Thinks China and Democratic People's Republic of Korea are Orwellian dystopias. Says tankies all want to put gay people in the forever gulag. Queer but also anti-kink and trans-misogynist. Extremely moralizing of media consumption. Confidently says crap like, my politics is that I'm a good person. And finally, still thinks it's possible to start a party and push left. Again, these memes are literally just proving my points. The issue is that it's, like, I really want to get into this one. Thinks China and Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or simplified North Korea, are Orwellian dystopias. Because they are. The issue is that I've noticed that there's this conspiracy theory that's mostly being pushed by, like, I don't know what else to call them other than internet tankies, who say things like, oh, don't listen to all that propaganda. North Korea is actually a paradise. But it clearly isn't. If you have more than 2 brain cells, you can tell that North Korea is an absolute hellscape. Alright, we just copied what you did in your colonies. You committed the worst crimes known to mankind. We just copied what you did in your colonies. However, like, I understand where this meme is coming from, but the issue is that they're directing this meme at the wrong people. The issue is that I understand that this is a communist meme. However, just because that it's communist doesn't mean that they shouldn't criticize the Soviet Union. For example, like, I already said this before in the video, but Nazi Germany was actually very socialist, and Imperial Japan were basically okay. No matter how you look at it, Imperial Japan was just right wing all around. I'm not sure what their economic stance was, but I'm pretty sure they were like economically center. And because of their isolationism, they might have been considered economically left to an extent. So really, at the end of the day, who's really more at fault? Right. Meritocracy without socialism is snake oil for suckers. Self-congratulatory meritocrats squeezing every drop of their soul to achieve anything. Rich parents, rich kids. Look what they need to mimic a fraction of our power. There's really nothing I can say about this. The meme speaks for itself. Alright, remember growing up in a communist with Sailor Moon? Your power is here, Comrade Chen. You'll get more conservative when you're older, me in my mid-30s. Just why? By the way, can I just mention, it's like a common joke that everyone starts off as an authoritarian, but then as soon as they as soon as they pay taxes once, they just become a libertarian. I feel like that's true most of the time for any person with more than 3 brain cells to rub together. However, if that person is a truly brain dead, tanky, they just think that, oh, communism good. Whatever. Keep living in your own mind. Alright, Taiwan is not a country. Yes, it is not a country. Alright, let me read this. Yes, Taiwan is not a country. It is a government that got destroyed by the People's Liberation Army in 1949, and now LARP is the true government of China. What's your point? By you? I don't know. John Gio, Winnie the Pooh, Taiwan is not a country, get it? Stupid golly, are you offended yet? Blah 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 blah. Whatever. There's like a perfect meme that I can use to describe this because it's like the midwit meme where it shows like how smart people and dumb people usually say the same things, and it's like it shows like I'm gonna have to describe this meme, but it's like it's like a really dumb looking person being like Taiwan is acting China, and then there's the midwit who's like, no, China and Taiwan are 2 different things, and then there's a really smart guy with like 140 IQ being like, Taiwan is the real China. Because the first guy who said Taiwan is China said something like, as it meant like, oh, Taiwan belongs to China. And the other guy who said it was like, oh, China belongs to Taiwan because Taiwan is the true China. Because it's true. No matter how you look at it, Taiwan is the original China and is the true China. So moving on. Also, I remember when I used to have the Mao haircuts. Now I have more like something similar to a Max Stirner haircut. Alright, moving on. First Moon, how they understood the assignments. Orthodox Marxism theory, a victory over revisionism and utopianism can never mean defeat once and for all. It is an ever-renewed struggle against the insidious effects of the bourgeoisie ideology and the thoughts of the proletariats. Bucharest. I don't know. I'm not even, whatever. The issue that I have is that both revisionists and Orthodox Marxists, neither of them are very good. Alright, here we go. And this is gonna be the last communist meme. Right? Do you like Trotsky? I think Nazi. Stalin's socialism in one country is antithetical to Marxism. The struggle of the proletariats with the bourgeoisie is at first a national struggle. The proletariat of each country must, of course, first of all settle matters with its own bourgeoisie. The issue is that it is true what Trotsky said, that socialism in one country is antithetical to Marxism, because Marxism, at the end of the day, is extremely compatible with globalism, and there's a reason for that. However, it is true that the leaders of their own country, leaders of their countries, should care more about their citizens than anything else. Alright, moving on to the final section, the anarcho-capitalist memes. Now, since there is no official subreddit for anarcho-capitalist memes, I'm just gonna have to look for memes on the official AnCap subreddits. Alright, I was the original poster of this on my old account. Reddit is actively censoring anything critical of China, so I thought I'd post this again. Huh. I'm not surprised. Because of the whole, I've seen this. Reddit is extremely left-leaning. I've noticed, I think back, a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, when, all the Antifa riots were ramping up, I noticed that, I noticed that there was a video someone posted a video on Reddit of a police officer getting smacked in the head with a hammer. The officer lived, but everyone in the comments was like, oh, get that guy. True, bad, blue man bad. And Reddit did absolutely nothing, so that should be enough proof that Reddit is extremely left-leaning. And also, I need to say this, China is a left-wing country no matter how you look at it. Just because China does a lot of exporting, that doesn't make them any less communist. Alright, moving on. There's no way. The underlying values of leftism. The underlying values of leftism are envy, hate, resentment, unequal treatment under law, and violence. Another really good quote from Millet. Yes, this is a correct statement because at the end of the day, leftism is just a constant victim mentality taken to its logical conclusion. And also, if you want my opinion on Millet, I have no real problems with him other than the fact that he just happens to be Argentinian, and the fact is that I think Argentina might be too broken to be saved. Alright, here we go. Next up, Trojan horse got socialism. U.S. Senate candidate goes viral for blaming New York earthquake on climate change, deletes posts. Seismic misstep. Alright, earthquake. Is this global warming? Literally insane socialists. How is an earthquake global warming? How does an earthquake have to do anything with changing temperatures? Whatever. Alright. Freedom over money. Alright. There are things that matter more than money to people with principles. The tyrants have forgotten, and that's why they will lose in the end. Seth Dillon. Correct. I have no other things to say about this. Are you kidding me? This exact title is what I just said. Alright, another quote from Millet. The enemy is socialism. The enemy is statism. The enemy is collectivism. This is true because, at the end of the day, all three of these go hand in hand. Alright, whatever. I just really want to answer this. In an AnCap society, what would prevent gangs and cartels from coercing people into buying their protection? This is actually a good question, but the issue is that, at the end of the day, if an action isn't voluntary, if it's compulsory or anything like that, the issue is that coercion is a violation of, as anarcho-capitalists describe, the non-aggression principle. So people will probably organize boycotts or just overall raids against gangs and cartels doing things like that. It might sound cruel to organize an entire gang just to stop another, but at the end of the day, what truly matters is maintaining non-aggression. Right? Elon Musk goes against the Brazilian government's censorship measures and clashes with the justice minister who fined X. Content restrictions in Brazil have been removed. Is that really the whole thing? Huh. Or are there more? Oh yeah, there's more. X Corp has been forced by court decisions to block certain popular accounts in Israel. Okay, Brazil. We have informed those accounts that we have taken this action. We do not know the reasons these blocking orders have been issued. We do not know which posts are blah 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 blah. Monster Mace. Whatever. You see, censorship of any kind shouldn't be tolerated. That's literally all I need to say. Let me see if I can go back to where I originally started. Alright, here we go. Alright, this one's gonna be the last one for this video. Trust the government. On one hand, on the left is the former vice president of Monsanto, a company that poisons everything you consume. On the right is the current deputy commissioner of the FDA, an agency that protects you from companies like Monsanto. This is legal. Honestly, the meme just speaks for itself. I don't really even have to explain this. And that's gonna be all for today. If you want more content like this, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you all next time.